Last week, I reminded you about Pastor Kevin Swanson introducing Ted Cruz at some religious lunacy event and then talking about how he thinks all gay people should be killed. Ted Cruz hasn't commented on this. Ted Cruz hasn't distanced himself from Kevin Swanson. We've heard nothing from Ted Cruz about this obvious relationship where it's at least acceptable to show up at an event and be introduced by this lunatic who thinks all gay people should be killed. We now have learned about an even more direct connection to a Cruz associate who wants to ban homosexuality, whatever that means. I don't know how you ban that, but okay. It's like saying, I want to ban people who are born with blue eyes. I mean, you could artificially change their eyes, but you can't really ban the people, right? Terrible example, of course, because you can't really change your sexual orientation. But the point being, I don't know how you ban something that just exists. Republican Michigan State Representative Gary Glenn, who's a legislative co-chair for Ted Cruz's campaign, believes that being gay should be criminal. During a 2011 interview, he was asked if he supported criminalizing homosexuality, and he said, quote, "The short answer to your question is yes, we believe that states should be free to regulate and prohibit behavior that's a violation of community standards and a proven threat to public health and safety, including, as most of the United States did throughout its history, homosexual behavior." Okay, so then he's specifically saying, make homosexual behavior illegal. And we know about sodomy laws, which, by the way, are unconstitutional, and we've heard about these tactics. You will probably not be surprised to hear that Glenn also serves as the president of the American Family Association of Michigan, a known anti-gay hate group. And last year, Glenn spoke out against the Planet Fitness policy, which resulted, you remember this story, Lewis, we covered it. A Midland, Michigan woman had her membership canceled at Planet Fitness, a gym, after she spent several days complaining about a transgender woman in the women's locker room. So in a statement announcing Glenn's status as a legislative co-chair of his campaign, Cruz said he was, quote, thrilled to announce the addition of such outstanding conservative legislators to our Michigan leadership team. I would love to just get Ted Cruz on record and say, listen, your legislative co-chair, right? Your legislative co-chair in Michigan thinks homosexuality should be criminalized. Do you denounce your legislative co-chair's position on the criminalization of homosexuality? Not a question he's been asked.
No, and I predict that unless he appears on our program, no one is going to ask. But yeah, this is the kind of friends Ted Cruz has.
We have hundreds of years in hundreds of places where being gay was a crime because people were too ignorant to get it, that we're born with our gender preferences, right? Our sexual orientation. And when we hear someone like Glenn say, quote, "We believe that states should be free to regulate and prohibit behavior that's a violation of community standards and a proven threat to public health and safety," my mind goes not to banning homosexuality or making it a crime. Mine goes to air and water regulations, placing bans on fracking, drilling, legislation banning certain types of firearms and ammunitions that are a threat to communities. But if you try to do any of those things, Lewis, I am sure that the so-called freedom-loving conservative would say, whoa, that's taking freedom away.
Yeah, I've actually heard from Gary Glenn's chief of staff that he's planning on banning happy next.
Right.
It's there's something they're working on.
Ted Cruz's associations with these right-wing extremists are very, very disturbing.
It's disturbing, I guess. I mean, we've been talking about individuals like this for years. It's disturbing that Ted Cruz won't distance himself from these freaks. Well, like, you know what? He is one of these freaks. That's the problem.
He believes he was anointed by God to be president in order to bring about the second coming of Christ. He's in line with these guys. His views are no crazier than this guy, Glenn guy, who wants homosexuality criminalized.
Yeah, look, if God wanted Ted Cruz to win, God would make sure that things weren't coming out of Ted Cruz's mouth during debates, okay?